We begin with tonight's big number, 4%. That is it in the level of support that President Duterte got for his vice presidential bid. In the latest Pulse Asia survey, the president took the second spot for PDP bets with 14% backing his possible return, his possible run. That is based from Bloomberg supported Duterte for the country second top.
Duterte now trails Senate President Tito Soto, who edges him by double digits. Soto enjoys the support of 25% of Filipinos, jumping from just 10% back in June. Recall that in a recent SWS survey, 6 out of 10 Filipinos say it's unconstitutional for the president to run for vice president. Good evening, I'm Marisol Halili.
And Robbie Alampa, you're watching the big story. It is not only President Duterte, even its Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte saw her numbers drop in the latest Pulse Asia survey.
But with Duterte Carpio maintaining the lead, Pulse Asia believes she might reverse an earlier decision to no longer run for president. Mayan Los Baños with a big story.
She might still be leading top picks for president next year, but the level of support has already dropped. In the September Pulse Asia survey, 20% of respondents have chosen Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio to be chief executive. This is an 8% drop from last June's survey. The plunge comes as the presidential daughter said that she will not vie for the top post. But her spokesperson said Duterte Carpio's ears are still open.
Patuloy din niyang pinakikinggan ang pulso ng mamamayang Pilipino. Nakikiisa siya sa hangarin ng ating mga kababayan na makabangon sa paghihirap patungo sa pag-unlad ng ating bayan.
Duterte Carpio leads a list of 12 possible presidential bets. Trailing her is former Senator Bongbong Marcos with 15%. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno got 13% and Senator Manny Pacquiao 12%. With her still leading the pack, Pulse Asia thinks the public is hoping for Sara to walk back on her decision.
Well, she gets higher voter preference in Mindanao. She gets 47% there, but lower in Visayas, 23%, and lower still in NCR, where she's 12%, and Balance Luzon, where she's 8%. I suppose the people are not discounting the possibility that she might change her mind.
Still a laggard in the race are two possible opposition bets, Vice President Leni Robredo with 8% and Senator Ping Lacson 6%. Robredo's numbers jumped by 2 percentage points and her camp is confident that numbers may still improve.
A big factor. No? Saan pupunta yung undecided na yan? Siyempre, kung hindi nila alam na kandidato si VP, ba't nila sasabihin ipipili nila? Eh kung mag-file siya ng kandidatura niya at nalaman nila, ay baka magbabago at magkakaroon ng adjustment.
As for the potential vice president, a quarter of the respondents chose Senate President Tito Soto, jumping 2 spots, edging President Rodrigo Duterte with 14%. Duterte was the previous frontrunner. Soto said he'll use the results as a confidence booster, but the palace remains confident that the president remains the candidate to beat for vice president next year. Reporting for News 5, Mayan Los Baños, we are One News.
To talk more about what the recent Pulse Asia survey might mean for the Kusi camp of PDP-Laban, we have with us PDP-Laban Membership Committee Head and Energy Undersecretary Astraval Pimentel Naik. Good evening, Ms. Naik. Welcome to the big story.
Good evening. Good evening sa lahat ng ating mga nanonood at nakikinig sa big story. Magandang gabi sa ating lahat.
Ma'am, ano pong masasabi ng PDP-Laban dito sa pagkandidato ni President Duterte on two fronts, no? Una, yung pagbaba niya, pag-overtake ni Senate President Tito Soto, but also the Pulse Asia survey showing that 60% of Filipinos believe that him running for Vice President could be unconstitutional.
Tungkol dito sa tinatanong mo, kami naman sa PDP-Laban ay we maintain with what we have spoken and what is our stand, that we are pushing for the president to run for vice president, no? Siguro hindi naman ito yung survey about him not being not na unconstitutional yung pagtakbo niya bilang vice president. That's for the Supreme Court to decide, but we in the party believes that it is not unconstitutional. Regarding naman dun sa kanyang pag-slide ng ng kanyang survey result, sa tingin namin ay hindi naman ito ang tunay na sentimiento pa ng mga kababayan natin. Unang-una, at the time that this survey was conducted, hindi naman pa yata nakapag yung ating mga kandidato tungkol sa kanilang pagtakbo, and most of our voters are actually waiting for the actual filing of candidacy, no, bago sila magbigay ng kanilang tunay na assessment as to kanino ba sila pipili ng kanilang mga kandidato. So as of this time, all the survey results are still fluid. At saka tandaan natin, no, na yung ating mga kandidato, in fact si President Duterte, when we asked him to run for president in 2016, no, para sa kanyang pagiging pagtakbo bilang pangulo, he started with only 1% survey result, but at the end of the day he won the elections. So ngayon alam natin na merong maraming kalituhan pa kung sino yung mga tatakbo, and I believe pagka naging klaro na po ang lahat, the president will really be able to win this election if ever he decides to really run for vice president.
Gaya nga po ng sabi niyo, malaking konteksto po dito yung pagdeklara, hindi pagdeklara, and to that end, even probably yung pagdeklara ng hindi tatakbo in the case of Sara Duterte. Kamustahin lang po natin ng PDP-Laban. Wala pa rin po kayong pambato sa presidente. Any word from Senator Bongo?
As far as the party is concerned, we still maintain fix po ang aming mind, fix po ang aming puso tungkol sa tandem na Go Duterte. And alam natin na si Senator Bong is also just waiting also, no, kung ano man ang magiging desisyon ng partido, ano ang magiging desisyon ni President Duterte. At even siguro there's a little din kung ano yung maging desisyon ni Sara Duterte, kasi maraming beses na nga po niyang sinasabi sa atin that he is going to live his faith to God, to the Filipino people, and to the Duterte family. So kilala natin si Senator Bong bilang isang tunay na kaalyado ng Pangulo at ng buong pamilya. At kilala natin si Senator Bong na ever since hindi naman ito nagpalipat-lipat ng partido. He had only one political party in his life, no, and that's PDP-Laban.
Okay. Maraming salamat po. That was PDP-Laban Membership Committee Head Astravel Pimentel Naik.
Thank you very much.
The race for 12 seats in the Senate is also heating up. So who are the most preferred senatorial candidates so far? In the St. Paul's Asia survey, broadcaster Rafi Tulfo and Taguig Representative Alan Peter Cayetano top the list. They're followed by Sorsogon Governor Cheese Escudero, Deputy House Speaker Loren Legarda, as well as Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and Senator Manny Pacquiao, both of whom have announced plans to run for president. Senator Ping Lacson, also a potential presidential candidate, claimed the 7th spot, followed by former Senator Bongbong Marcos, game show host Willie Revillame, and DPWH Secretary Mark Villar. Completing the top 12 are former Vice President Jeju Marbinay and former Senator Jinggoy Estrada. With at least 4 names on that list already nominated or at least expressed intent to run for the 2 top posts in the country, other names might enter the Magic 12, including Bam Aquino, Mig Subiri, Kiko Pangilinan, Win Gatchalian, Risa Ontiveros, and Joel Villanueva. These are the other big stories tonight. After mounting pressure, COMELEC gives in and extends voters' registration by a month. That, however, will only resume on October 11 after certificates of candidacies have been filed. The Philippines is the worst country in the world to live in during the pandemic. That's according to Bloomberg's latest COVID resilience ranking. And it's official. Manny Pacquiao hangs up his boxing gloves, paving the way for the presidential run. These big stories after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Marisol Halili. With voter registration extended by a month, the Commission on Elections now expects voting population to reach 63 million.
The poll body expects more than half of that to come from the youth. Question is, will the youth vote determine the turnout of next year's election? The answers in this report by Jen Calimo.
Due to public clamor and pressure from Congress, the Commission on Elections has decided to extend the voter registration period. Registrations will reopen by October 11 after the filing of certificates of candidacy. COMELEC offices and satellite sites will be open from Monday to Friday and on the last Saturday of October. The registration for overseas voting is likewise extended from October 1 to 14.
All registration services will be offered. We will open all registration services.
The COMELEC assures the public that they will still try to be on schedule for other election activities.
May allowance talaga yan. Basically, what this means is we're gonna dip into that slack time.
The poll body told the chiefs that half of the voting population for next year's elections are the youth.
Looking at somewhere around 51% of the voting population. So it really skews the voting population towards the young.
A political analyst says the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed more youth to register.
Dahil nga ang mga kabataan ay hindi nakakalabas, nagkaroon sila ngayon ng panahon at nagkaroon ng interest, parati silang nasa social media tungkol sa mga issues sa ating lipunan.
Despite this, the expert says it's hard to tell if their vote will be solid.
Hindi pa yon established na meron tayong youth vote president, for example. Ngunit masasabi natin na may mga kandidato na mas madali nilang naaani yung youth vote.
A bigger youth vote also won't guarantee against powerful political dynasty candidates.
Hindi enough na pag maraming kabataan ang boboto, ibig sabihin mananaig ang hindi trapong politiko. Kung ikaw ay reform-minded politician at gusto mong buwagin ng isang dinastiya, hindi masamang estratehiya ang engage ang kabataan.
Around 63 million Filipino voters are expected to be registered for 2022 polls, higher compared to 61 million last 2019. Reporting for News 5, Jen Calimon, We Are One News.
The Commission on Elections is also making a call of their own. They're asking the IATF to clarify guidelines on granular lockdowns, fearing that it might be weaponized in the elections. Speaking with the chiefs, COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said that nothing is stopping LGUs from declaring granular lockdowns. This, he fears, might be used by candidates and supporters to disrupt the orderly conduct of elections. He says the poll body will submit its observations to the IATF so that a policy may be put in place.
One of the really worrying things about the granular lockdown is because when they announced it, a big point was made na wala ng APOR, right?
That's right.
Yes. Recognize na APOR. So parang that sort of shuts down any easy solution to that question. So again, the COMELEC has brought it up, and hopefully we can get clarity, particularly doon sa kapangyarihan ng local chief executive.
For the big story in sports, Senator Manny Pacquiao finally retires from boxing as he makes his presidential bid. Gretchen Ho with the story.
After much speculation, Senator Manny Pacquiao is officially hanging up his gloves. On Wednesday, an emotional Pacquiao made his retirement from boxing via a video statement on Facebook. Pacquiao's last fight was against Cuban boxer Yordenis Ugas last August 22, which ended in defeat. And despite the loss, Pacquiao's legacy as one of the greatest to ever do it has long been cemented. Pac-Man, after all, is boxing's only 8th division champion. His best years in the ring came from 2008 to 2011 when he conquered one weight class after another. And even at the tail end of his boxing career, Pacquiao still pulled off victories against some of boxing's greats. But at age 42, Pacquiao admits it's time to move on from the sport.
I will never forget what I have done and accomplished in my life that I can't imagine. I just heard the final bell. Tapos na ang boxing.
Pacquiao's retirement paves the way for his presidential run in 2022. Earlier this month, the boxer turned senator accepted the nomination of his PDP-Laban camp.
Paninindigan ang mahalaga.
Gretchen Ho, We Are One News.
Time for another quick break. When we return, due to its struggle to contain the Delta variant and inadequate testing, the Philippines becomes the worst place to be in during the pandemic, says Bloomberg. And young climate activist Greta Thunberg roasts world leaders for uttering nothing but blah blah blahs in addressing climate problems. The details after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Marisol Halili. Looks like digital banking is the new thing for Filipinos amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
According to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, 9 firms are competing for the last digital license in the Philippines for this year. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez takes us to the front seat of this story.
More digital banks are coming to the Philippines. That's according to BSP Governor Ben Jokno, who said that at least 9 firms are vying to get the last digital license for this year. The PSP had earlier announced they were capping the number of digital banks at 7 for the next 3 years.
Following such announcements, the BSP received 9 applications for new players and existing banks. These are on top of the 2 digital bank applications which were under evaluation prior to the announcement.
The 6 that have already won licenses are Overseas Filipino or OF Bank, Tonic, Uno Bank, Union Digital, GoTime, and Maya Bank. OF Bank is the digital arm of the Philippine government. Tonic and Uno are backed by Singapore-based funds, while Union Digital, GoTime, and Maya Bank are both backed by conglomerates. Union Digital is owned by Union Bank. GoTime is a partnership with the Gokongwei Group, while Maya Bank is the digital bank of PayMaya. Each has its own strategy. OF Bank, for instance, will be relying on payments for public services.
We will soon be coordinating with government agencies, onboarding their services that will allow payments, contribution to any government agencies.
Maya Bank, on the other hand, will continue to tap on PayMaya's network of merchants around the country.
We have 40 million registered consumers today. We have been at the forefront of enabling millions of consumers to do their first ever digital payment. We have enabled hundreds of thousands of small merchants, even some of the largest merchants.
One thing all digibanks have in common is they will not have brick-and-mortar branches. It's all going to be just through here. A study conducted this year by credit card company Visa found that majority of Filipinos were interested in trying digital banking services, particularly in this pandemic. The top services they're looking for include paying bills, transferring money, and making deposits and withdrawals. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
In other news, what is the worst country to be in this pandemic? You don't have to look far. It's the Philippines. In the latest Bloomberg COVID-19 resilience ranking, the Philippines is dead last at the 53rd spot. Also in the bottom 5 are our Southeast Asian neighbors, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. The country underperformed in containing the virus as it grapples with the Delta variant and inadequate testing. And with the economy still disrupted, the country also scored low in terms of reopening. That's the total opposite of what's happening in Ireland, which is the best place to be in during the pandemic. Bloomberg says Ireland's strategy is widely used in Europe, where vaccination is boosted as the inoculated are given more freedoms. Spain, Netherlands, Finland, and Denmark are part of the top 5 in the ranking.
Climate activist Greta Thunberg is mocking world leaders in a Youth for Climate forum in Milan. Thunberg imitated the commonly used expressions of leaders, including British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and US President Joe Biden. She then dismissed such empty words and promises as nothing but blah, blah, blah.
Blah, 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 blah. This is all we hear from our so-called leaders. Words that sound great, but so far has led to no action. Build back better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. We can no longer let the people in power decide what hope is. Hope is not passive. Hope is not blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Galit si Greta. Galit si Greta.
Oo. Wala daw nangyayari.
Pero Mase, what do you think? Worst country in the world for COVID?
Ang lala.
Oo.
No, Robbie, I've personally experienced kung gaano kahirap kumuha ng hospital nowadays. It's really difficult. My friend is living in Marikina Heights. Nakahanap kami ng hospital in Bataan. So no wonder if we're the worst country to live in during the pandemic.
And whatever happens, Mase, lalo na, alam mo to, you're covering a lot of people running for 2022. This is something na mukhang magiging issue to in the coming months.
Dapat i-consider natin siya sa pagpili ng mga uupuan 2022. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands!
And stay safe, Philippines. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
On behalf of Gretchen Ho, I'm Maricel Halili. We are One News. Good evening.